So today I want to talk very quick about this Air India crash and what could be the real cause of this crash, which has to do with the electrical system actually. Because so far I heard a lot of cover-up stories which I don't think are true. So as of now, the story that's been out there is that one of the pilots deliberately pulled the fuel switches and therefore it caused the airplane to crash because of fuel starvation, right? I don't buy that, because why should a pilot who's done like 2 hours of pre-flight check and focusing during the takeoff on the runway or has his eye on the artificial horizon, why should he suddenly, during the takeoff roll, pull the fuel switch handles? And nobody knew that he had this intention 2 hours prior to that, right? So I don't think the pilots did actually anything like malicious. So of course the pilots are dead. So I guess it's a pretty easy thing to blame malicious intent on the pilots, or just blame anything on the pilots, because they cannot defend themselves anymore, and it would protect the the airplane itself. But I heard right at the beginning that this particular airplane had a problem with the electricity. There was like an electricity outage within the airplane a few days before. So what I actually think happened during the takeoff roll, during the start of the airplane, when you do your roll, there's a little flatter, like this, when the wings are catching lift. So when that happened, there was a electricity short circuit happening, which kind of caused the airplane to lose power and electricity, and because of that, the engines were rolling back. Yeah, so which probably could have been solved if the plane was on a higher altitude, and then they could have restarted the engines and come out of it. But so far, I think that was the reason. Why do I think that? Because I flew recently an airplane from Abu Dhabi to Qatar, and I came across this phenomenon of condensation water or condensation vapor within the airplane cabin. And it's a phenomenon that actually reminds me of a nightclub fogging machine, because the entire airplane was suddenly filled with like fog. And when there's a certain difference in temperature and pressure outside and inside, then you have this all this fog coming from the air conditioning into the cabin. Now, what happens when that's the case is that little droplets of water will form on the ceiling, and it starts dropping down. But they will also create within the whole electrical system and within the cable, the cables and everything. So if you suddenly have condensed water within the wiring and the cable systems in an airplane, and you put some power and voltage into those cables, then you have a short circuit. So I think when the airplane took off and there was a little shaking going on, then you had this short circuit being created, which caused the airplane to completely lose power in all systems, and therefore it crashed. So that's why I don't think the current version of the pilots pulling the fuel switches, even in a mistake, because they wanted to retract the flaps and then they pulled the fuel switches. I don't think this is true at all, because if a pilot would have touched those fuel switches, like if I would be the airplane, I would I would give out a warning saying, hey, dear pilot, I know you're smart and I don't want to offend you, but I think that's a really, really stupid idea to starve the engines of fuel, because we're just taking off, the engine's on full power, all the systems are normal, I've been configured for takeoff, I'm 50 feet above the ground, so if you do that right now, it could have a really bad outcome. So that's why I'm not gonna let you do that. Well,